I thought our family dynamic would be kind of what mine was growing up, where the whole youth group is at the house all the time and there's food everywhere and energy. That drove my husband bananas because that is not a blessing to him when the house is full.
Okay, this is like the exact same in my home, legit. Life is like a roller coaster, but it's better when we go through it together. Welcome to the Candace Cameron Bure Podcast. We're here to share conversations about life's challenges, our celebrations, and everything in between. This season, I'm joined by Bible teacher, author, actress, and all-around incredible woman, Priscilla Shirer. Come join us. Hey, Priscilla.
Hey, girl.
I love your bright colors today, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I have to challenge myself to wear brighter things. I'm a neutral girl. Yeah.
Okay.
So I kind of have to go, you know what? Wear blue.
It looks beautiful on you.
I appreciate it.
I'm a color girl. Okay. So like I love wearing color and I actually love what I have on today. But when I get, I don't like to wear black a lot because do you love black?
It just makes you look regal and like you tried. Even if you didn't try, it's black. So it works.
I know. And every time my stylist actually puts it on me for events or something. I'm like, okay, if I'm wearing black tie, I can wear it. But other than that, I just I need color. It makes me happy.
Well, I would say for you to give me everything that you got that black, but you're 5'2" and I'm 5'7". So there might be a little bit of a disparity.
Otherwise,
there.
I'd give it all to you. I'd give it all. Well, I'm really excited about today because we are now going to dig into what your new book is all about. And it's about surrendering everything that you have.
It's one of the hardest things for us all to do, isn't it?
Absolutely. You've written so many books. You have so many Bible studies. Why this book now? Why a book on discipleship?
Well, the reason why is because I know that we've lost a little bit of focus in the church. And I say that in a very broad, general way, but in the church on actually coming to spiritual maturity, on becoming more like Christ. That's supposed to be the goal across a lifetime, that it's not something we arrive at. It is something that day to day, month by month, we are growing, we're becoming molded into the image of Christ, and we're becoming mature, that we're able to make discerning and wise decisions that we didn't even see clearly 10 years ago this time. And now we have some wisdom because we've walked with him and lived a little bit. So it's just that encouragement to continue growing. You haven't gotten there wherever there is, that there's still a path for all of us, no matter our age or maturity level at that time. So just an encouragement. And also because that's the message of The Forge, that film, The Forge. It basically is about discipleship. It's about the importance not only of personal surrender, but the flip side of the coin of discipleship is how impactful it can be when one life is connected to another life. And when someone is walking alongside of you to give you a model. What does it look like to follow Christ in marriage? What does it look like to reflect the life and the mind of Christ in my finances and how I steward my money? What does it look like as I build a business entrepreneur to do that with integrity and a way that honors God when I've got pressure coming from my peers, but also from superiors or from, my own feelings of what this needs to look like economically? How do I honor God? Well, you need somebody that's built a successful business that is excellent in their craft, that can tell you the mistakes they made so that you don't have to make the same ones, or can give you some guidance in that regard. So that importance of walking with a person who is a little bit further down the road than you, so you can have clarity on your own life and dealings in it.
Oh, that's so great. I'm so grateful that the Lord gives us time.
Yeah.
Some time to keep working on it. Some time to keep learning and growing and just step by step trying to make it better.
Yes. And that his grace is sufficient for that. Like sometimes we forget to give each other grace and we forget to give ourselves grace. Yeah. We get kind of disgruntled with our own selves that we're still maybe struggling in that way or wrestling in a particular way. But his grace, he knew you'd still be here struggling. He knew you'd still be wrestling with that particular issue in your own mind or in your dynamics in your life. So if he can give you grace, give it to yourself, take a deep breath and know that he's got you for the next day that's ahead.
So walk us through this first chapter. We are talking about the idea of surrendering everything you have.
Yes. Yes.
What does that
Everything
mean?
you have. I remember when I was in graduate school, I went to Dallas Theological Seminary. And at the time, the president of the seminary was Chuck Swindoll. And I don't know if everybody watching knows who that is, but if you're thinking about somebody who's a legend in terms of honoring God personally, but also in ministry and impacting people's lives, oh my goodness, Chuck Swindoll is one of those people. I think he's nearing 90 years old now.
Remember listening to him on the radio.
Totally.
Because my mom and dad would have him on in the car all the time.
Just dripping, oozing wisdom. And he happened to be the chancellor of the school when I was there. So he would speak regularly at our chapel service that we had weekly. And there was an illustration I can never forget that he gave from his own life. He said that when he was a young preacher, he had just finished preaching somewhere. He's probably 21 at the time. He just finished preaching, he had a very, very new wife, young family, and a new budding ministry. And he said that as he finished, he was standing at the doorway and people were kind of filing out and saying hello to him on their way out of the meeting that day. And he said this sweet little old woman, he's maybe 6 foot 1 inch tall. And she was like, your height, like 5 foot 1 inch. So she's a sweet little older woman. And she walked up to him and she looked up at him and he reached out his hand and shook hers. And then she didn't let his hand go. And she grabbed his other hand too. And she cupped her hands under his hands and said, Chuck, whatever you're holding on to, hold it loosely, so that it doesn't hurt when God has to pry your fingers open to get you to let go.
Whoa.
I've never forgotten that illustration, that it's not a problem that we have the thing, whether it's our children, whether it's our career, whether it's the ministry, whether it is our expectations of what life and the future is going to look like. It's not a problem that we have it. The problem is, how are we holding it? Are we holding on to it so tightly that if the Lord begins to impress upon us or the circumstances of life begin to make it clear to us, we're not going to reach that goal. The expectation of our family dynamic is not going to look the way we always thought that it would. Our career is going to head in a completely different direction than what we planned for. Whatever it is, are we willing, when it's clear that the Lord is moving us in a different direction, are we willing to let go? Or are we going to keep resisting and fighting against him? And trust me, I'm talking from experience as being the one who holds on tightly, to what I want it to be. And then you get into your life and you realize that really is an exhausting way to live, resisting what it is that God is doing. And so that part of our spiritual maturity, and it's part of what the Lord, I'm so grateful, is growing in me, a constant appreciation for what I have, our health, whatever. But then a willingness to hold it all loosely and to just say, Lord, I trust you with this, even that thing, the thing that's got our heartstrings attached to it. I'm going to trust you with this and be willing to hold it loosely so that at your bidding, I can go where you want me to go and do what you want to do, what you want me to do. It's hard.
So what can I ask a personal question? What have been some of those things that have been difficult for you to hold loosely?
Oh man. There are, a couple of them come to my top of my head right away, but I remember one of them was in regards to my family dynamic. My husband is a very private, quiet person. He's like, if quiet strength were a person, it would be Jerry Shirer.
Okay.
He is like this big giant of a man, tender on the inside, but he looks pretty intimidating on the outside, Right. And he's not a super social person. And a couple of my sons have gotten that from their father. I've got one who's kind of outgoing and loves to have friends over. The other two are kind of like their dad. They're homebodies. They're just like trying to just be by ourselves at home quietly. Well, I'm kind of a hospitable person, want the doors to our house open. I want the house to be full of friends and the energy that comes when there are people there and feeding everybody. And I love that. That is the thought that I had of what my family dynamic would be like before we ever had children. I thought our family dynamic would be kind of what mine was growing up, where the whole youth group is at the house all the time and there's food everywhere and energy everywhere. That drove my husband bananas because that is not a blessing to him when the house is full.
Okay, this is like the exact same in my home, legit.
Yes.
Our home was a revolving door. It was
Totally.
the place in the hub, and I loved it. And that was my expectation too.
That's
and
right.
Val, similar to Jerry, was like, no, I would like to choose and decide together when people are coming over to the house.
Really?
It's
You want
not-
to be a part of the decision?
Yeah. It's not open to anyone anytime.
Yeah.
I'm like, but the kid's friends. I'm like,
know.
I want this to be the hub. He's like, I don't.
Exactly.
And we will decide who comes over and when they come over. I'm like,
And that's a very sobering thing, because you don't even realize that you're coming into the relationship with expectations until they're not met. And then it dawns on you, oh, I thought it was going to be like this.
Yeah.
And it can be heartbreaking in a way. I mean, this is a very superficial issue, but there are many things that are basically just like that, where you didn't know, you thought life was going to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't. And that's one thing I had to go, okay, this is my family. I can either try to shove them into my expectation, which is going to make them miserable, me frustrated, exhausted because I'm fighting against the reality of my situation. Or I can say, Lord, you entrusted me with this situation. You knew that this would be my family dynamic. And so that means you want me to steward this and trying to make this something that it's not. That was an issue of surrender for me.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a huge one in my private, personal life.
That's so good. I've never thought about that being surrender, but I'm just reflecting on my own life, and I'm like, I guess that's a place of surrender in my life too.
Absolutely. Where we're constantly having to let go of what we thought it was supposed to be or would be, and just say, okay, this is what it is. And the Lord knew what it would be before I ever got here. So am I going to just keep holding on tightly to what I wanted to be and forcing everybody into a script that they did not agree to? When we wrote the script, they didn't agree to the script. Are we going to keep trying to force them into that? Or are we going to just relax into what is and enjoy it as it is? Now, it's a family dynamic. So people come halfway, meaning Jerry's become a lot more open to guests. I've become a lot more relaxed in terms of having that happening all the time. You know, so different seasons allow for different things. But in general, both of us and my children, we've had to ongoingly go, okay, all right, let me let go of what this is and be all right with what the Lord has allowed us to steward in a particular season.
So how does someone learn to be all right when there's something so important? I mean, I can just think of that moment of going, do I have to give up my career? Am I going to give up my career? Do I let that go? I mean, maybe it's, I want a child so badly and I cannot have a child right now. How do you help someone let that go?
That is a great question, because there is no like formula. And don't we wish there was, because that would make this a lot easier if we knew, if we do these three things, then it'll make it easy for us to walk a different direction. But the reality is, it is a day by day, okay, Lord, I trust you. And really it does boil down to, actually, do we? Because it's easy to say that, but whether or not we release our grasp on the things that we love, that is what tells us whether or not we actually do trust him. And so day by day saying to him, okay, Lord, I'm going to trust you with this desire today. I'm going to hand this back to you, and then I'm going to release it to you. And then I'm going to have to trust as to whether or not you're going to give it back to me in the way that I'd like for you to, or if you're going to bring something full circle in my life in an entirely different season that allows me at least to understand your choices for me, Lord, or appreciate them more fully, or just be able to settle into the realities of what my current life is. It is an ongoing struggle because we're human and we want what we want.
Yeah.
So I think part of the grace in it is letting ourselves know that we're going to wrestle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The tension of not having things exactly the way we'd like to, that tension is okay. And knowing that we're going to struggle and relaxing into that struggle, that's what keeps us pressed on our knees with our hands and hearts upturned towards the Lord. Because every day, Lord, I'm going to need your strength to be able to reflect your attitude, your perspective, your responses and reactions to the people in this dynamic. Because I'm struggling in this way, that's what keeps me in need of your favor and your blessing on me.
because you've been through the struggle, you've been willing to let go.
I mean, kinda.
Okay,
Let's be clear.
But that's my question. I'm like, are there still things that you struggle with letting go of today that you hold tightly? Or have you come to a point where it's a little bit easier to hold them loosely because you've been doing it for so long?
I will say that it does get easier because once you live long enough, you do start to look back and you can see the threads starting to come back around. You can start to see that not only that there was grace the Lord gave you to sustain you when you just didn't think you'd ever make it another day without that thing. And then you look back and it's been 10 years and you're like, golly, God's grace really is sufficient. But it also is that sometimes in his grace and mercy, he gives us these little bits of insight or these little bits of awareness that in letting that go here, he was able to bridge that here and give us something back that is not what we anticipated or expected, but is good. And it's satisfying in a way that we didn't even realize it could be. And so I do think I've kept a journal for most of my life. And I'm not a serious journaler. You know how there are those people that, every year they start a new one and they got colored pens and pencils and all that. They're serious. And I'm not that serious. But throughout my lifetime, I have been one of those people that when something happens, when something shimmers with divine fingerprints, when I kind of see that's not coincidence, like that's God. Same thing in my son's lives. I've kept a journal for each of them where maybe 5 times a year, 3 times a year, I'm just writing down something where I'm kind of seeing the handiwork of God. And I'm so glad I've done that because when I look back at what I'm writing 21, 22, the things that were breaking my heart at 23 or that it weren't shaping up the way I thought at 26 and 27. And then I look back on it now from a 50-year-old perspective, I can go, oh gosh, none of that was wasted. That was a part of the story. Can I give you an illustration?
I would love to.
I feel like I'm talking so
No, I was just going to ask you because you had mentioned some stuff. I don't know if this is the illustration, but you had told me some stuff about when you were in War Room.
Yes. Okay, that's one of them, but I've got another one too.
Okay, tell me.
Remember I told you in an earlier episode that broadcast journalism was my plan for my life. Okay. So right out of school, I got a couple of opportunities to do like roving reporter bits on television shows. There was a show in Dallas on CBS called Positively Texas, and they hired me as an independent contractor to be a roving reporter. I'm like 23. I'm thinking, this is awesome. I get to be in the mall in front of the Smoothie King, and there's a new Smoothie King in town or whatever. And then there was a show in Chicago, and they had me come out once a month and do a little. So I'm thinking, okay, this is a good beginning. Every opportunity I got, right after I got the opportunity, the television show would be canceled. And of course, when you're young and just starting out, that feels real personal. Like, what am I not doing or what am I doing that is causing this not to flourish and work out? And I remember being devastated because it seemed to be me. I was the problem.
Yeah.
Fast forward 7 years. Now I'm recognizing ministry is what the Lord has for me. The very first video-driven Bible study series that I did, I stood in front of an audience. There maybe were 100 people there, and it was a 3-camera shoot, much like what you have set up here in this room. And I remember the director of the shoot coming over to me right before we started the first session, and he was trying to describe to me everything I already knew. Tally lights, how to talk to an audience, but also make sure you're addressing the person on the other side of the screen and they feel included. Everything he was saying to me, I already knew everything he was saying. And I mean, the Holy Spirit said to me, Priscilla, all of those years were about this.
Oh, wow.
So now I've spent 25 years knowing exactly what to do with cameras because of those years I thought were wasted.
Right.
And in the moment, it felt devastating. And I had to untether myself from the goal and ambition I had of being in broadcast journalism. As I saw the Lord closing those doors one after the other and opening these doors in a different direction, as wise counsel was making and clarifying for me, God through his word was clarifying for me, this is the new direction. It took me a little while to loosen my grip on, no, this is what I'm doing with my life. I'm going into broadcasting. And by the way, it took me a while to burn those ships, meaning, I don't know if you've ever heard that illustration.
Yes.
I don't know if it's Christopher Columbus or what. Do you know what
use it in the movie Unsung Hero? I'm like, it's like burn the ships. And they were,
like we're not, there is no plan B.
There's no going back. We're not turning around. We are only moving forward.
We're only moving forward. It took me a while to do that. Like I was walking down the path that I felt like the Lord was confirming He wanted me to, but I still had these ships back here.
Right.
I'm still like making sure this is the thing. And if I don't like it over here, I might get back on these ships. But when I finally surrendered.
Yeah.
And let go. I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if this is going to be successful. I'm just going to go where I feel like you're leading me to go. When I released my grasp on that, there was a satisfaction, there was a joy, there was a fulfillment that I only thought I'd get here. And that was one of those times where the Lord let me see the thread that this season was preparing you for this, that none of it was wasted. So I say all that and about the journal because I'm glad I wrote some of that down.
Yeah.
Because it starts building your faith in the future.
A special thanks to Lifeway Publishers of the Experiencing God Bible Study for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Over the years, God has used the truths in Experiencing God to awaken believers to a radically God-centered way of life. As a result, millions have come to know God intimately, to recognize His voice, and to understand His will for their lives. This new special edition is revised, updated, and ready to lead you again, or for the very first time, into a deeper relationship with God. Experiencing God for adults, Experiencing God for teens, the CSB Experiencing God Bible, over 50 published resources are all available at lifeway.com. God is inviting you to experience Him in an intimate love relationship through which He reveals to you His will, His ways, and His work. From Genesis to Revelations, we know that God speaks to His people. This book has been read by over 8 million people and published in over 75 languages. Find yours at lifeway.com/experiencing God. Ever hear of Operation Christmas Child? Operation Christmas Child is a ministry of Samaritan's Purse, and it has reached over 210 million kids in over 170 countries and territories through shoebox gifts. These gifts contain fun toys, school supplies, and personal care items. Anyone can pack a shoebox. I've done it with my family over so many years. And then you drop it off at a location during National Collection Week, November 18th through the 25th. The good news of Jesus is shared alongside your gift, and each child is invited to join a discipleship program. Learn more at SamaritansPurse.com/OCC. I have told this story numerous times because it's part of my testimony. But in the very same way, having a career since I was 5 and working till I was 18 and then laying that down when I got married and had kids, that was a hard season for me. And as much as I loved and wanted to be a mom and loved my husband and all that, it was such a transition and so difficult. And I felt like I was not living up to my potential.
Right.
When I was only changing diapers and cooking meals and going to the playground and driving to school and in carpool and making crafts and doing all the things as mom.
Right.
And yet that was the season that God grew me as a woman in my faith with Him, grew my relationship in the Lord with Him, because I had the time when the kids were in school. I had the time when the kids were napping to now go buy a Priscilla Shirer Bible study and study the Word of God. And then when I eventually came back into the industry in my early 30s and truly had a moment of like, oh, God, I'm coming back, but you just prepared me. I have a whole different perspective. I have new eyes as to why I'm going back in the industry. And you, just like you, I'm like, I already know all of this stuff. I learned it from a kid. This is like second nature to me, what it is like to be in front of a camera and be in the entertainment industry. But I never had spiritual eyes in the industry.
Right.
And so when I came back into my 30s, like, oh, this is this is what you've been preparing me for.
Yeah.
And again, guys, I want to say this, that also prepared me for motherhood, like all the things. And I'm still a mom, and love that. I don't ever want to sound like that wasn't a part of my preparation, and
of course
it's only career driven, but to relate to the story that you just told, it was so very different. And I'm like, oh, all the years weren't wasted. Not just in growing and maturing and teaching my children to grow up, but I myself, God was just preparing the ground, the soil,
totally,
to have it grow so that I could come in and actually work in the industry that I love so much, but have a faith perspective and stand strong in it, be deeply rooted in the Word of God while I'm navigating my way through it.
Oh my goodness. You just said a mouthful there, because one of the statements that you made about that season, that word right there, my mother used to say that all the time. And I kind of just really get it now that I'm older. The power and beauty and importance of every season. And part of our surrender looks like relaxing into the season you are currently in, instead of spending that entire season strained and stressed about trying to get out of it so you can get to the next season, which is mostly what we do. Yeah. Like when we're single, we're like, okay, hurry up so we can get married. And then we're married with no children and we're like, okay, I'm ready to have babies. And then they're babies and you're like, okay, everybody go to college, and then you look up one day and you realize there was beauty in each season and you actually missed it. Yep. Because you're trying to get to the next season. And honestly, the framework for us being fruitful in the next season is being set up in the current season. So if we're not surrendered to God in that season because we're trying to hurry or we're bored or we feel like it's underwhelming or overwhelming, if we don't surrender to that season, we're going to miss out on the scaffolding that actually is a requirement for us doing well in the next season. Yeah. So I love that you said that you look back and you go, oh, that wasn't wasted. And I wish I would have just relaxed into it more and gleaned more out of it instead of kind of wishing I was already moved on to something different. I wish I would have learned that earlier.
I wish I would have learned it earlier too. I still struggle with that. Totally. I don't know if you ever have done one of those Clifton strength finders. We do within our workspace, we do strength finders. It's not a test, but you kind of, and it just tells you what the strengths and weaknesses are. And it also helps you collaborate with people to kind of balance out, at least for us in our workspace. Totally. Where I know I need someone to kind of fill in the gaps where I'm not strong and vice versa. But in that, I'm a futuristic thinker. It's one of my,
which is beneficial.
One of my top, my top strengths. I'm futuristic in my thinking, which I know, not because it told me, because I know myself, it is harder for me to stay in the present because I'm always looking ahead. And I think a lot of us do that. Totally. But it's like high on the list for me. So it's like I'm always looking for the next, it might be the next thing. It might be the next moment. I've just done something, but my brain's already ahead to the next project. It might be that immediate. But sometimes, like you said, could be a whole entire season. Like, I just want to get through the season. So anyway, it's a good, all the things that you shared are such good things to remind us to think about. And yet we're to not hold on to it too tightly. Yes. Because God may ask us to let that go.
And you mentioned earlier that illustration that we had talked about regarding War Room. So, in an earlier episode, we mentioned that was the first film that I ever did. And I thought the only one I would ever do. I'm not in the industry. And so who is in a movie and they're not in the industry? These are people's lives. This is their job. It's a whole industry here. So there was this one random opportunity. I get to be in this movie. It was so fun. I mean, you know how it feels when you do something that is totally outside of your norm? Yes. And so you feel like a kid in a candy store and a schoolgirl. I was like enamored, not just with learning how to do my part well, the blocking and all of that, but I was enamored by the 80 people on the other side of the screen. Yeah. The people behind the camera. The whole thing for me was phenomenal. The experience was great. It was hard
That's
work.
incredible. That makes me feel so happy for you that you loved the experience. I love the
experience so much. And I love that my kids got to be a part of the experience. And then I saw the ministry impact that came from War Room. So I loved it. And I remember thinking, number one, that'll never happen again. But Lord, I'm open to it. I'm available to that. If some kind of way ministry and movies keep intersecting and I can be a part of that, I'm open to that. I'd love to do it again. My husband had the hardest time while we were filming War Room. We both agreed to do it. But once we got there and we were in the throes of filming, it didn't go well with my husband because I was married on screen. That was the main thing that he didn't know how that would impact him, watching me and this other actor together for 12 hours a day, every day, sort of interacting in a close space. Now, to be clear, just to kind of put a buffer on this, one of the things I love about filmmakers like the Kendrick brothers or the Irwin brothers is that they care very deeply about the protection of integrity and marriages, very deeply. So in War Room, for example, any close-up scenes between the husband and wife, Tony and Elizabeth Jordan, those close-ups are he and his wife. So I would do the wide shots, for example, for the foot washing scene or the hand holding scene. I would do the wide shots. But then when they came in to actually get the hands or get the actual feet, they would put my wardrobe on his wife. To film that. That's how much they cared about making sure there wasn't too much going on of hand holding and, touching. So there wasn't anything suspect happening, but my husband was just jarred by the feeling. Since this is not what we always do, it kind of surprised him. So I figured the way this impacted him and us, I will never do this again. Even if I get an opportunity, it occurred to me. This probably doesn't work for my family dynamic. And it was a point of surrender that felt painful. It felt painful because I enjoyed it so much. That's it. It was just because it was an enjoyable adventure in life. Who gets to do this? And as soon as I started enjoying it, I realized I was going to have to let it go. And I have a journal entry from right after we filmed it, before the movie even came out, where I just said, Lord, thank you for that opportunity. And now I let it go. I would love to do it again, but if I never get another opportunity, thank you for the one you gave me. I wrote that. It sounds good, but I wrote it through tears. I wrote it through like a bit of a hard heart. Like, seriously, God, like, why would you give me the opportunity and then put me in a relationship, in a marriage that I want to honor, but that can't tolerate it? Like just,
Priscilla, I understand deeply everything that you're saying because I'm literally there my entire marriage.
I'm sure that I can't imagine people that have your frame of reference, you and your husband's frame of reference, and you're in the industry. You probably have to wrestle with this ongoingly.
Well, I'm going to take a few extra minutes because I actually want to talk about it, because I get asked this question all the time. And you just said something that is actually really special that doesn't happen often. And it is people like the Kendricks brothers or the Irwin brothers, because you just said, like, it was that other actor's real wife that stepped in. And my brother did that with one movie that he was in with the Kendricks brothers at all. There was a kiss at the end, and his real wife stepped in.
Fireproof was that movie, right?
Fireproof, exactly. So I always get asked, well, why don't you do that, Candace, for every movie that you're in? Why isn't Val stepping in? Because in all of the TV movies that I do, there's always one kiss at the end. We all look forward to the kiss at the end. We all know it's going to happen. It doesn't happen until Act 9 in the movie. And my grandma, who watched every single movie of mine and all the other ones on, would just wait for that soft kiss.
It's the mark of a Candace Cameron Bure movie.
And so I just want to address that while it's possible to do that. It's not a standard that is done within our industry. And it's something that Val and I wrestled with a lot in our marriage too, because in the same way, Val was like, I don't even really like watching you being, regardless of a kiss at the end, I really don't like watching you being close to someone else. And I get that. So we've had those struggles and a lot of conversation and prayer. And I had the same exact moment when I thought, I think this is it. I think I have to give this up after having done a couple of Hallmark movies and realize, he goes, I don't want to watch them anymore. They make me uncomfortable. I don't want to. And I would never want to put my husband in that position. And, prayed about it and wrestled with it and ultimately decided, okay, God, I'll let this go.
And for you, this is your whole career has been in this industry, and you're saying, okay, Lord, if you're asking me to let this go, I know your priority would be for me to sustain my marriage and prioritize my marriage. Yeah. That's a huge...
It was hard. And even praying that prayer, I'm on the side, I'm going, but God, but I really like you to not allow it me to have to surrender.
Because you enjoyed it. You enjoy your career. You enjoy your work.
Yeah. I love it. And, ultimately over the years through that conversation, because some movies came up and it was like, oh, great, you're doing another movie. Because Val's always been supportive of those things. And yet I said, yeah, but I'm not going to do it because there's a kiss at the end. And I know that makes you unhappy and I don't want to dishonor our marriage. And then I think the reality of that took a spin and a turn for Val.
In his heart.
Yeah. And so anyway, guys, this is like years of talking this through.
Years.
But then it came to a point where he said, I can handle it. And I don't want you to give up your entire career. This is what you've done. This is, I met him and I had already been an actor.
That's right.
For 12 years. This wasn't something new for us.
Right.
And he said, I don't want to be the reason that you don't pursue the talents that God's given you and give up your career. Wow. And so the balance was, here are the boundaries in which I'm comfortable with. And not to, which are his boundaries, the same boundary that I have. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't want to do more than a kiss.
Yeah.
And then he was like, but I don't want to watch the movies. And if you're okay with me not watching, I want to support you. I want to be there for you, but I just don't want to watch them. And I'm like, I can do that. I can do that.
There you go.
And those are personal things. This is probably
I was about to say every family has to make decisions because we happen to be talking about film right now. But the reality is if you have two people that are married and they both travel a lot for a living in their industry, one's an executive at IBM and, one works it doesn't matter. Yep. The point is they have to decide what works for their marriage in terms of who will be gone, how long, and how long will be. So the dynamics are different from every family. But the point is both of us had to come to a point in our dynamics where we went, okay, Lord, I know this is your priority. And to honor this, it's begging the question, am I going to be willing to let something go? And my husband's had to do that for different reasons. I'm sure Val has to. Yeah, in different reasons to honor your family dynamic. And with me, that was 10 years ago that I said that to the Lord. And just assumed it would never happen again anyway. But also, here we are now on the fourth movie. Yeah. This is the fourth one. I never thought there would be more movies like this that required an African-American woman that is not married, because that's one of the things that Jerry's not sure he can get past yet. Like who writes something for someone my age and she's not married? Normally she's the wife or something like that. So I assume there would probably never be roles like that. And then my husband's heart totally softening when he sees the impact of the ministry that it's happening. Yeah. So I'm just saying I've walked down the road long enough now to see in this particular illustration that I've given you, I handed it over to the Lord and he's given it back to me. And it's been stunning to me that he has figured out a way to give it back to me and still give me an opportunity to do something that's just plain old flat out fun for me. And allows me to still do ministry. And in The Forge, by the way, Jerry is in it.
Oh, fantastic.
Jerry is in the movie. This is how magical the Kendrick brothers are. Somehow they convinced Jerry, my quiet behind the scenes, not trying to be in front of the cameras guy, to actually be a part of the Forge group, which people will see in the film. But he's one of those men. He and my youngest son are a part of that group. And so the fact now that all these years later, I'm watching, not only did the Lord bring it full circle for me, but we got to do it together as a family.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's just remarkable to me. Good. So it just has given me confidence that the Lord knows He sees, and he's doing things behind the scenes that you're not aware of.
Yeah.
And that we have to decide, do we trust him even with the things we love or not?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Well, that time has come. We're going to take a listener question. Okay, this one's from Cassie, and she writes in and says, how do I get my kids to take care of their responsibilities automatically without a constant battle?
Cassie, when you figure that out, if you would write us back and tell us, we would really appreciate it.
Tell us. You don't. There's always a battle.
There kind of is always a battle. I would say that's when the tough parenting comes in.
Yeah.
Where a lot of times I feel like some of our children's resistance to show up to responsibility, not all the time, but sometimes it's because we actually haven't required it. We haven't made it so that here is number 1 and number 2 on your list of your life. Number 3 through 10 don't happen.
Right.
Unless you have completed number 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And sometimes we've relaxed so much because we don't feel like the back and forth, because we're just, fine, just go get your cell phone and just, we just are so tired of holding our ground that it's kind of trained in them. That
they know.
All they have to, yes.
Yeah, they know.
So I'm not saying that's you, Cassie. I'm just saying the possibility is there for you to consider. Have you held them to the line? Are you willing to be inconvenienced to make them responsible?
Oh, that's good. And that's the truth.
It really is, because I don't know that they ever just are joyful about the chores.
No, they never are. And we had a kindergarten teacher, and we kind of took her phrase. She would say to the kids, slow obedience is no obedience.
Yes.
So we'd always tell our kids. And
that's what we need to tell ourselves in relationship to God, right?
Totally, for sure. And listen, I think there's a constant reminder with our kids, no matter what age, but it's just what you said. You're being inconvenienced, but I'm going to go, it might be that phrase, hey, slow obedience is no obedience. I've already asked you to do that.
Yep.
I don't want to remind you again. And then there's consequences that are implemented when they don't happen. But I don't think my kids have ever joyfully gone, yes, Mom, I'm going to go clean my room. Yes, I'm going to get my laundry done.
And I didn't. When I was a teenager, I didn't joyfully do anything that my parents wanted me to do. So
it's just part of parenting.
That's
so
right.
Take a deep breath, Cassie.
Take a deep breath.
You will get through the years. We promise. Hey, thanks for joining us this episode. We're so glad that you're here. We have something special for you this season. It's a personal prayer guide, and it's our way of encouraging you to pray and affirm your family. It's at Candace.com, where you can also ask a listener question for me, and we'll answer it in our next season. You'll also find a link to Priscilla's book, I Surrender All, which is what our conversation this season comes from. Until next time, be grateful all day, every day. CandyRock Entertainment, all rights reserved.